All right, we'll get started on time, and hopefully the players that are coming in and people that registered will hear the playback. So thank you very much for coming. My name is Fred Hubler. I'm going to make sure this is a well worth your time type of webinar. I see a lot of friendly names on the registration. Welcome back. And I see some new names on the registration, so welcome to Retainer-Based Academy. Today we're going to talk about the future of financial services, how to run your practice like a rock star, enjoy doing it, add more value to your clients, make more money for yourself. Everything that I want to talk to you about was too big to put into the title. So we'll get started, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time with my intro. Background, 18 years as a financial advisor. 4 years ago, changed our entire practice to be advice-driven versus AUM or product-driven. It has changed my life personally. We have bigger clients who are paying us more money to do things that I enjoy better, and it has changed our office. We're now have clients in 11 states, and I'll walk you through, that transition and what I learned. And this class is really what I learned and what I can like to share with you guys and girls. And I have a personal reason for it is as more people are advice-led and retainer-based, I'm not going to be so lonely in the industry because not many people are doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it. So it takes a lot of time to explain to a prospect who becomes a client the differences, because all they have to compare it to is what I used to be, which is, a financial advisor, the current way of being the financial advisor. So I'm going to get started. I'd like to go through a lot of material and share with you some things. But before we talk about where we're going, we need to spend some time to talk about where we've been. And none of this should be new to you. Hopefully all of it is recap. But in the 70s and the 80s, stockbrokers were needed for a bunch of things. What to buy, what's the ticker, and can you buy it for me? Because we weren't able to do it on our iPhones. And, that took us through the 70s and the 80s. Stock jockeys made a ton of money, both for themselves and for their clients. Clients needed stockbrokers because they couldn't do it themselves, either because they didn't want to or they really didn't have the equipment to do it. Focus on now, and focus on the 90s and 2000, including planning now. People can do planning. We do AUM. We have fee-based instead of commissions. And again, these are value added to the clients and stuff that we already know what's going on. Starting in 2000 and today, all the way up to now, there's a few things that are happening, none of which are good if you're a financial advisor. I'm going to walk you through some of that. And again, this is stuff that you're seeing every day and we see every day. And we just need to understand where we're coming from before we can talk about where we're going. The idea behind it is technology is taking over. It's taking over everyone's jobs, and we hear it all the time, and it's already started taking over our jobs. And the thing I'm concerned about isn't what Robo Advising does today, because it's still kind of, not as proactive as it could be and doesn't really impact our lives that much. But we're not many years away from Siri telling me, based on my risk profile and the market being down, would I like to move X amount of money into the market today, yes or no, and just clicking it. Or because the market's down and your risk profile says XYZ, would you like to start dollar cost averaging at $200 a month, because we see that you have that about every month as surplus. That doesn't take anything other than the technology that's already there to kind of be, using that information, giving it back to the client. And between all of us, they're able to do that. If that starts to be rolled out, do it better than we ever will. It takes me at least a day and a half to call all of our best clients. And if you're going to call all of your best clients because the market's down and you want to increase their equity exposure, you're not going to reach them all. And it's not the best use of your time. And we're never going to be as fast as Siri, or Google or whatever on your phone asking that. So Robo Advising is here to stay. It's probably going to get more competitive and going to be harder for us. Add to that fee compression. Clients are now very cost conscious, and they want more for less. Additional services are being added. Hey, can you look at my 401k? Oh, by the way, can you charge me less? So these things are happening now and aren't going to get better, meaning the pendulum isn't going to swing towards us anytime soon to make this stuff better. And I'd like to take a moment from the consumer, the kind of person with money and potentially the willingness to pay for something. Those things aren't going to be done by robo advising. At some point, low cost asset management and even asset movement for the right client, they need more than just what a robo advising can do. And add to this with the robo advising, again, the things that are happening today, the best from a compliance standpoint, and there's a reason for them, and we love them, and if they're listening, I love them. They would love us all to fit in the same box because it's easier for them to manage the risk of what we're doing and what we're doing for our clients. So you extrapolate that across all the broker dealers and all of the industry. At the end of the day, to the consumer, we all look the same at some level. How we do it and who we do it and how gray our hair is or how young we are or how X-Gen we are, that's all, page 4 and 5 on the book. But the front of the book, it looks just like the front of every other book, according to the consumer. So to be a little bit different and to be ready for the future, we need to look at this from what the client wants to do. And so I will spend some of this time on what's in it for you as an advisor and running a practice, but we'd have to take a moment, and really understand the value we provide to our clients is only valuable if they want to pay for it. If we're giving it away, the value is kind of, up for grabs. And actually doesn't matter how valuable it is. If no one's paying for it, it doesn't really help us. So what do high net worth retirees, working executives, and business owners want? Because if you're building a practice or moving a practice or trying to be competitive in that space, you need to know where the ball is. You need to know where the ball's going. We kind of know where the ball is now. And at the same time, you want to know what of the changes that need to happen, what are the changes you're going to do for yourself? What are the changes that you're willing to take on? Because there's some things that are going to change that you're not going to want to do and I wouldn't want to do and I haven't done. So you got to make some choices, but at least knowing what these people want, and these are the people that have problems and have money and are willing to pay us to solve their problems with their money. And I'll walk you through, what that looks like. So one of the things they want, and again, this should not be common, this is common sense, but it's not common practice. And if you're not trending your practice to be able to incorporate these things in your value proposition, you're going to miss, a transition. So when the robo advisor in Siri takes over our day-to-day job of moving money and, the market's down, let's buy some more stocks, you need to have something else to go to. And it already has to have been built. And your clients need to know you're good at it and that you can do it. So one of the things they want is integration of all their experts. At the end of the day, if you're dealing with high net worth people and both high net worth retirees, but professional executives that are C-level and above and successful business owners, they all have high net worths. And when I say that, let's say 2 million and above. We just had a family engage us for our retainer-based planning that's a net worth of 50 million. And I just had a meeting today with a family that's worth 30 million. So this is all proportional and all depends on what kind of clients you're attracting. But what I can tell you, they all want integration of all their experts. They got people, and they might even have other stockbrokers. They might have other financial advisors, and obviously have their family lawyer that not only knows where the skeletons are buried, but maybe even helped bury some of them. And these are higher net worth people tend to have smaller and smaller circles, and it's common sense. You have a lot of money and people are really nice to you. You never know if they're nice to you because you're a nice guy or girl, or because you have a lot of money. So the more money people have, the smaller their circles get. And some of that circle is experts. So one of the things advisors need to be providing a platform for their clients is an integration of all their experts, because they got them. And if you're not coordinating it, and no one is, we're not doing a service for the client. And if you're not coordinating it and someone else takes that lead, they're the head chef. And that puts you not in a good position. The other thing they need is an accurate real-time dashboard. We all hopefully have programs out there. There's a bunch out there. I work for none of them. I don't care which one you use, but these are things you need to have. I retired in 2018 from the NFL Players Association. Back in the day, if you Googled best NFL financial advisor, you got me. Organically, I didn't pay for it. Football players go bankrupt because they don't know they're going bankrupt, not because they want to be bankrupt. They work too hard for their money to want to be bankrupt. So providing them something that they can see with their iPhone or something they can see with their iPhone to see, hey, where's my money at? And putting in alerts to say, okay, your working capital fell down, what's going on? That's all stuff you should be able to provide for your client. And taking that data, once your clients do those connections, and giving them proactive advice on that and proactive intelligence. A RoboPlan, a Robo Advisor will never be able to do it and connect dots that maybe aren't there, but you need to kind of scratch the surface a little. So they want an accurate real-time dashboard. Information is now everywhere. If you stay on WebMD long enough, looking up a hangnail or looking up something that you're trying to look up about yourself, you stay on it long enough and dig deep enough, you will end up with cancer. WebMD, there's enough information there that you will be overwhelmed. And our clients are no longer needing us for information because they can get it. They can know the tickers, they can know the earnings per share, they can know everything that we used to be able to provide in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they can get for free off of Google and Yahoo Finance. What they don't know and what they don't have, and what a robo-advisor will probably never be able to fully comprehend, is the knowledge to make better decisions for their specific point in time and their specific person, whether it's tolerance for risk or whether they're transitioning jobs. That knowledge needs to be there. And these are things that we probably are already doing. You just need to be able to be put in a position so your clients give you the credit for doing it. And so a lot of this we just do as part of our planning, as part of having a relationship with us as a financial advisor. We need to kind of lead with this so they know that that's something they're getting out of you as a real product. It's a real value proposition. This is the big one. This is going to make some of you cringe. But what people want is advice that's not tied to buying products. And the elephant in the room is the investment I'm offering you or the strategy I'm offering you, if I'm a commission salesperson, or even if I'm fee-based, is the answer I'm giving you as a client, if you're a client, is it better for me or for you? Every client is thinking that about anything you ever put in front of them. They have to weigh, is this really going to do what you told me it's going to do? And is it better for me or for you? And that is a conversation that kind of mutes other conversations. So what does that mean? What's it mean when you're advice driven? At the end of the day, there are going to be asset management platforms that are going to be so low in cost that it's not worth our time even having them. I'm not saying it's there now, but asset management over time might even be a loss leader for a planner, because that's not where they're going to add their value. That's not where they're going to make a lot of money over time, not overnight. And this isn't happening tomorrow. But clients that have higher net worths want the advice, want the knowledge, wants everything that we show in these bullets, but they also would like the advice not tied to buying products. And products also include AUM. So a good example, one of our clients owns several fast food franchises, called with a $400,000 or $500,000, hey, what are you going to do with this? Or, have it, what can we do with it? We called him back the next day and we told him that he should redo his franchises, make them open floor plan and put the CNN on the flat screen TV and a fireplace. It doesn't change the price of the hamburger or even the taste of the hamburger, but there's a 28 to 32% return on investment when you own a restaurant of this kind of restaurant and you update, and he'd done it before. So if I was not advice driven and not retainer based, the answer to this guy would have been, well, give me the money, I'll do the best I can with it. And I would have, and you would have too, and we will do the best we can. But advice not tied to buying products gets you into a conversation with higher caliber clients, and it gets you into a better and deeper conversation. I hope that makes sense. Tying that, if you can give, like that client that I gave and said, no, don't give it to me, do something outside of me. If you're a business owner, some of their return on investments will be better in their business than any fund we're going to give them, especially at this point of the market. Once you start giving them advice that doesn't benefit you, but it's the right advice, you have no idea how much that separates you from everyone they've ever worked with before and pretty much everyone they could ever meet at a cocktail. Because proof's in the pudding. I gave advice that didn't benefit me. And that's how you can truly understand who is a true trusted advisor, is did you give me advice that didn't necessarily, benefit you? Now, that doesn't mean we don't do second to die and make a commission. It doesn't mean we don't also make money for these clients or make money on strategies that our broker dealer still likes us. We're still doing production, but we're not leading with that, and we're not requiring that, and we get it organically and almost in a better way. And especially if you're in a conversation and you get into that inner circle of these higher net worth clients and you can see the bigger picture, you may uncover things that no one else saw. And usually that will have a strategy that you can put to bear for the client that will pay you a lot of money. So having a true trusted advisor is a big thing. This is another thing. I'm in Valley Forge, Vanguard's backyard. I'll never be cheaper. I'll never be bigger, and I'll never be able to compete with a 60-40 portfolio there that comes to me and is the same portfolio. I'm just going to stifle the returns by my fee, unless I do something better than what's over there. And that's, eye of the beholder. And again, there's a lot of people out there that are good at picking stocks. But I figured that I'm going to go where Vanguard isn't. And maybe you can do this in your own practice. So dealing with high net worth individuals means they're accredited investors. 18 years ago, being in Vanguard's backyard, I'm never going to be cheaper mutual funds. Never could at the time. I was with a broker dealer that was, A share based. So, I was always going to be 5% behind the starting line if they did work with me. So being independent, one of the first things I did is, okay, what are the kind of investments that Vanguard's never going to offer? And it doesn't take you long to know it's accredited investments. So offering accredited investments to accredited, investors, at the same time saying, no, leave the Vanguard at Vanguard and we'll help you, manage it, but we're not going to charge 1%. That creates a huge amount of opportunity for you for the stuff that actually pays you better, frankly, and moves the needle better for the client. So the ability to keep funds where they are is ironic because we still get some of the funds. And the funds that we get in our practice are the funds we can actually do better with for the client. So we're not shopping who's the cheapest 60-40, leave it where it's at. If it's performing, manage it. It's all, our software, your software does it for you, the 60-40 split. You know what funds to pick out over there. But that becomes a differentiator because now, it kind of goes with the true trusted advisor by telling a client, listen, don't need to do that. And where does it, in reality, where does it actually rubber meet the road? I had a client who had a multi-million-dollar 401k and a small account at an investment company. The investment company was a 1% type of place, which most of us are or know of them. And when the $4 million was in play for a rollover, the conversation this client had with that broker was, what are you going to do for $40,000 for 1% of $4 million? What are you going to do for $40,000 a year that you're not already doing for the $250,000 account? And I don't know what the answer was. I wasn't in the room. But you've done that dance before. There's not a good conversation you can have that says, oh, here's everything I'm going to do at $4 million that I wasn't doing with $250. That is also worth $40,000 a year. So long story short, that client became my client. I feel bad for the guy that had a 9-year relationship. Right when the payoff was about to happen, the ball went into my hoop, not theirs. We charge a retainer, a couple $1,000s. I think it was $6,000. They're saving, let's say it was $5,000, they're saving in their head $35,000. And along the way with the planning, this was never applied to the client as an obligation. It was never an obligation. We looked at what we needed to do. They had zero in accredited investments. They had zero in alternative investments that would complement the where the $4 million was. So over time, that $4 million went down to $3 million in the low cost platform, which is fine, but we were able to add value with the $1 million, save the client money, and actually make a lot more money for ourselves than if we just had the $40,000. And that came to us because we never required the assets to be with us, but it doesn't mean you don't get the assets. And in our case, because we're dealing with accredited investors, we get assets, that we can give solutions that are accredited. The other thing here is they want real world solutions. They don't want products. They don't want fact sheets. They want you to know their problems, and you don't know their problems just by them giving you a questionnaire. You know their problems by looking at that real-time dashboard, hopefully that you have in your office, and be able to proactively say, hey, your savings account, went down to this or went up to that. What's going on? Things that are proactive really have a lot more weight to these clients. And as you're dealing with high net worth clients, Either you have the experience and you can apply it, or now you know your profile and you go and take extra classes and you go, learn about advanced strategies. Because now learning an advanced strategy, but not having the clients to apply it to is probably a waste of time and very depressing, because you find a strategy that has to do with insurance and you can make a ton of money and you can help the clients a lot. And then you go back to your own office and you realize you have none of the clients. So as you are attracting these high net worth clients, it's your obligation for yourself to, learn these sophisticated real world solutions. And you already have a lot of places you can go. Talk to your vendors and your sponsors and say, okay, someone has $5, $6, $7 million. How can we tweak your contract, or how can we do this with your contract? And almost every sponsor I've ever met, every vendor I ever met has an advanced planning. Get to know the people. Get to ask for, hey, if I have a client who owns, multi-franchise, fast food franchises, what are the types of problems your stuff can help them with? And just listen. Now, they're all going to have an answer, just like everyone else, as you would expect. We're all in sales. But if you listen to what they say, you're going to get some ideas that you can then go back to your book of business and look, especially if you start to attract these people. And if you do what we're talking about here, they're going to line up. Like I said, we're in 11 states. And one of the reasons it's easier to hire us for planning and not move any assets than do paperwork to do a transfer of assets and just assume we're going to be a better place than where it's at. And getting to the real world solutions, as you get deeper with the knowledge of sophisticated, strategies from your sponsors, from your broker dealer, from advanced management, advanced practice management that's out there outside of me. I don't do this, so I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm just telling you what these high net worth clients, executives at the C level and business owners that are professional. This is, that are at the top of their game. This is what they want. Whether you do it or not, they're going to find someone to do it. And so these programs and strategies are suitable to them. And then you lead with that on your website. You lead with that in your prospecting. You say, listen, I've seen you before, or someone looks just like you, and we have developed a toolkit to work towards the kind of issues people like you have. Clients want to know that you have a plan and that you're not the first person, they're not the first person that you've ever encountered with this issue. And they need to know that. Now, they probably think that, but if you don't say it, you've got to really, this is sales. And you need to really lean it up there, because if you're not saying it and someone else is, they're going to say, you know what, I really like Fred, but this other guy said he's seen me before, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel with Fred. If I never said I've seen you before, and I have programs and strategies that have been suitable for people like you, and it's our job to see if these things are suitable for you, that's a conversation they want to have. So hopefully this makes some sense. And one of the things that we see as a big thing that they want, and if you look at it, door number one is product sales. There's always going to be a place for that in the industry. There's always going to be a place for that in the world. Property and casualty insurance is always going to be that. And some of us, myself, we can do super funding of life insurance and some advanced things. That's just a long sale of a product sale. It's you got to do some planning, but it's eventually a product. There's firms out there that's all they do. There's nothing wrong with that. But one of the things the clients want that we've asked is a third option. Instead of just AUM, again, that client that had the franchises who said, I have 500,000, what can you do with it? If I was primarily AUM based, my answer would have been, here's the best thing I can do with it in my house. As an advice driven, I can say, you need to update your restaurants. That was a conversation that didn't benefit me in that moment. It benefited me multiple times since that moment, multiple referrals from that client, from other highly successful franchise owners of the types of franchise he's in, because no one else is doing it. So, if all of you do this, my competition will be higher, which is great, but it also means I'll have less time explaining to clients the idea. So the other thing that high net worth individuals want, and this is from, real time and real life examples, is they want a third option. Don't just want product sales. Don't just want AUM and me having to give you money and taking it from wherever it's at. I call it retainer-based planning. You can call it, fee-based planning. You can call it anything you want. Fee-based planning is kind of AUM driven. And ironically, when I looked at retainer-based planning, I went to retainerbasedplanning.com for my company, just to see what was out there, see what my competition was. The URL was available. I at least thought a lawyer would have owned retainerbasedplanning.com. So now if you go to there, you'll go to my practice. I'm a producing advisor You know, in addition to Retainer-Based Academy, I am every day in the office, seeing clients, tweaking this strategy, tweaking this value proposition. And when you are advice driven, so let's just replace retainer based, which is what I call it. You can call it advice driven. When you are that, it solves a lot of the problems. So up until now, our conversation has been about, or this webinar has been about, from the client's point of view. Well, I'm not talking to clients. I'm talking to advisors, producers, you know, people that are in the trenches. So I'd like to focus this on your perspective, you know, from you as an advisor. We got some problems. Some of us aren't making money or not making enough money considering the time and effort it took. We also maybe are our own boss, which means we're unemployable anywhere else because we can, you know, go golfing and call it work and have fun. We haven't taken a vacation, you know, and to me, a vacation is, and I have a blog out there about it. If you take a vacation and your clients come with you in the form of text messages and voicemails and emails, you're not on vacation. So I'm going to walk you through the problems, and I'm also going to go back and tell you what the solutions are, at least what we're doing in our office that has been a solution that is working. It's repeatable. It's not anything special about me or my plan or my team. These are things I want to give you that you can turn around and implement in your own life. So not making money, not taking vacations, not being scalable. You know, at some level, we are hand-to-hand combat and one-to-one sales. You know, we can't give advice to more than 2 families at once, or else we'll get sued by one of them, maybe both of them. So we have to do one-to-one. We have to understand the client, and so there's parts of that we can't fix. But there are things we can do to make the practice scalable, and I'll walk you through what that looks like and what you can use, you know, tomorrow. Part of it is not attracting the right clients. I can guarantee you we've all made exceptions. I've made exceptions on who I bring into the office. I'm sure all of you have made exceptions, and I will take a bet that probably is true. None of the exceptions over time worked out. I can tell you personally, for me, none of the exceptions I made have ever worked out. I've had a client that, you know, for an exception, we let him pick some funds. He ended up firing us for performance, but he picked all the funds. You know, so now we're like, no, you're hiring us. You're going to do it this way, or don't hire us. So you got to attract the right clients so that all of the other things get in line. Because if you're doing exceptions, you can't be scalable. If you're doing exceptions, you're sure as hell not making money. And if you're doing exceptions, you can't run it like a real business because you're doing one-offs, and then you just have a job. Hopefully that makes sense. So not making money, you need higher net worth clients that have bigger problems that you can help with. And those bigger problems typically come with bigger revenue for you and bigger impact to the client. No vacations, you need a team. If you're a one-man show, God bless you, but that's not a business. And that's not scalable, and you're not going to be able to take a vacation. And more importantly, your higher net worth clients don't want to work with one guy or one girl. They want a team. They want to know if you get hit by a bus, they'll be sad, but they want to know that their family is going to be taken care of. And that's one of the reasons why they go to the big trust companies that have been around for 150 years, because they know they're going to be around for 150 years. And one of the things that I want to share with you is we had one of our bigger clients was a prospect first, like all of your clients. And at a dinner where I'm getting to know the wife, she asked a very good question. She goes, I'm with XYZ Trust Company. They've been around for 150 years, no offense, but after we're all dead, they're going to be around for 150 years. Why would I ever move that money to you? No matter how big you are, you're never going to be as big and as, you know, never going to have the legacy of this other trust company. And we all have those trust companies in our towns. So the first answer is the money stays there, and that's, you know, that doesn't have to come to me. So that gets us in the conversation. And then the second thing I asked them, and this had to do with attracting the right clients and also that strategy idea. I said, your kids went to college, but did anyone at the trust company ever recommend, instead of you giving them money to put in stocks and bonds, that maybe you put some money down and you buy a house in the college town and you rent out the rooms and you teach your kids responsibility and you have a non-correlated asset. Again, this isn't something I would have made money on, but at the end of the day, I asked her, if you went to the trust company and said, I have $1 million, what would they do? And she rightfully said, they'll put it in a stock bond model. And then we had this conversation about college, and she said, they never recommended I do anything other than give them the money. Like, that's right. That's their answer. That's their answer for everything. And if it wasn't, they'd be fired. And so that family hired us on the spot. And so that's, again, when you have these kind of organic, honest, and natural conversations about here's how the world works, and you either, as a client, like it or not. So if you start attracting the right clients, they start referring you people that look like them because they know what you do for them and they want that to be done for someone else. So once you have a scalable practice, one way to do that is leverage your time. You know, if you ever take strategic coach, they call it focus, buffer, and free day. In our office, we have, shields up, so do not disturb, and I'm getting some stuff done. But basically, you want to batch things that are like-minded. So we'll have days that I see prospects, and we'll have days that I'll see clients. And we won't mix them usually because being in prospect mode is a different person than being in client mode. And then we'll have days where we're not seeing any clients, we're actually doing the work or looking at the work that needs to be done. So leveraging your time is a big thing. For us and for me personally, email was a huge time suck. So one of the white papers that I'd like to offer to you guys is the technology to kind of do some of this. And again, a lot of this technology I don't make personally, so it's just stuff I use and I want to share it with you. Attracting the right clients, we talked about that. Meet them where they are. And if that means they have a bunch of money at the trust company, use that as leverage for why they should hire you. Because there's things that trust company won't do. If they have a ton of money at a Vanguard or a Fidelity, that's great. Here's the things you're never going to get there that you might need. And I can offer that with you. So, don't try to make your thing bigger or better than it is. Look at where they are and just polish off the parts of how you do business and the practice so it's more attractive without you really having to shove it down their throat. So I hope that makes sense. One of the things I wanted to do is give you the information. I have your email. I'll send you the white papers. This was meant to be a primer. We could have gone down for any of those billets, probably done a half-hour webinar, and I wanted to keep this short and sweet so that you'd come back for more. So I want to thank you for your time. There will be a replay, so if I spoke a little bit too fast, I apologize. There will be a replay we'll put on our website. We have resources.retainerbasedacademy.com, and again, I'll send you an email probably next week just with white papers and YouTube videos that I do on this. And we're just getting started. Retainer Based Academy is a new company I started to kind of help advisors get to the next level. And I know in order to build a community, I got to give. And I'm giving you value. I'm hopefully giving you white papers. So this isn't a commercial for anything right now. This is a, are you advice driven or want to be? And we can talk about that. We're getting a question. So let me stop the share so you guys can see me. And let me see you. The question is, am I available to coach advisors? If anyone takes our Retainer Based Academy course, they get a half hour after the course to discuss how to deploy that into their own practice. And that half hour is complimentary for taking the course. That's a good question. Thank you very much. So I'm going to, another good question, retainer. So this is, once you decide what your platform is going to be. So our focus is executives and business owners, and our retainer is art and science. So I can tell you exactly how it is. And we have a whole module on, a bonus module on how to do it for yourself. But basically I take their total net worth and I look at 10 basis points of that total net worth and then decide whether or not they're more complicated than that or less complicated. And the other factors I use is whether or not they're a center of influence and whether or not they're going to help me duplicate what they are. So for the $50 million family, I did not feel, and the other element of this is in the first 12 months of working with us, can I add more value than the retainer? So for the $50 million family, 10 basis points is $50,000. Not knowing exactly where all their moving parts are, I did not feel comfortable saying your retainer with us is $50,000 because I know without a shadow of a doubt, I can give you more than that in value. So for them, we did a $20,000 retainer. Both them and another client that was worth $11,000. The retainer was never an issue. And ironically, when I'm talking, we do a proposal process. Yeah, so 5 million would be 5,000. So 10 basis points annually, not 10%. So 5 million is 5,000. Our minimum retainer is $5,000. So we never say no to anybody, but we say, our minimum retainer is 5,000 and they can self-select out of that. Or if they have a complicated thing, they can do it. What we tend to do is look at their profile. If they're worth 7 million and they don't know where any of it is, they're probably going to be a little bit more than 7,000 the first year. because we use e-money in our background for that portal that I talked about earlier. There's a lot out there. You don't have to use e-money. I have no connection to e-money. But at the end of the day, it's going to take us a while to get $7 million worth of stuff on there. That same $7 million client, if they're worth $7 million, but they have a tight plan, they already have a portal, they know where everything's at, and they just need someone to double check where they're going, I may not even charge them $7,000. I may charge them $5 or $6. But because we know what profile, whether they're a business owner or an executive, they're an executive, they probably don't have a super funded life insurance and should have had one 10 years ago. So we can, all else being equal, we can roll that out. If they are high income earners, they probably never had a tax credit to help them reduce their income taxes. So again, we know kind of the low hanging fruit for these people, and we'll get paid on that part. And if they have a lot of their money, that trust company, that $50 million family with all the money in the trust company, as a $50 million family, other than their own private business, they had no alternative exposure. They had no private equity, no storage, no non-traded whatever. And again, I'm not saying that's the answer for everybody, but for us, carving out alternative investments and leaving the stuff where it is a lot less headache for us, makes them feel like we're adding value, because we just, exploded the asset base, from an asset allocation. It's not 60-40 stocks and bonds anymore. We're doing storage, or we're doing private equity, and we're doing things that they're never going to have a mutual fund for at Vanguard. The other thing I want to leave with is the rules are, in order for you to show an accredited investor and accredited investment, they have to already be a client of yours. So you can't lead with, I can do tax credit. You can't lead, and then, we can never advertise that. But here's where being an advice driven for a fee kind of helps you streamline that. If they are a paid client for planning at our broker dealer, and I know for 6 other broker dealers, this is true. They're a planning client and they're paying you, and there's consideration, and you're doing the planning. They can do an alternative investment as their first investment with you because they're already a client, which means those days of doing the $20,000 or $2,000 in an American Funds balance account just to show them as a client so they can get the tax credit they really wanted you for anyway, or the private equity they really wanted you for anyway. Because our clients and your clients at the golf outing aren't comparing their American Funds portfolio. They're saying, hey, I got into private equity, or I got into this, super funded life, whatever the sexy thing is that made value to them, they're going to be proud of it and they're going to feel special. And that's what they're talking about at the golf course. So no one's ever going to call and say, hey, can you give me a better mutual fund? They're going to call and say, hey, you helped my buddy with a 1031 and he paid no federal taxes. I'd like some of that. And they're like, well, are you, I have to know more about you. And what we typically do is say, why don't you engage us for planning? And we can look at everything, including that 1031, and make sure it's appropriate. And if it isn't, you're not obligated to buy it from us. Or if we decide that you decide as a client to do a 1031 into a discrete property, a property that isn't one that we can get paid on, that's still on the table. And we're not going to ever say that that's not an option. So hopefully this made some sense. We plan on doing more webinars. You should have my email. You have my website. Ask me any questions you have. We want to start to create a community so that we can have a retainer expo and have an expo, hopefully around the country. But again, it'll start in Valley Forge or Oaks or Philadelphia, somewhere near me. But we'll have other speakers. We'll have other providers that are in this space. And I think this space will get bigger over time because this is where the clients want us to get to. And I can tell you with a straight face, every client that we've met in the last 4 years that we've shown the 3 options: buy a product from somebody, including us, AUM from somebody, including us, or hire someone for advice. And at the time, nearly we're in that conversation. They always pick number 3. And that doesn't take away that they still buy life insurance from us. They still bring us AUM, but it's the AUM that we want to manage, whether it's private equity, whether it's a boutique firm that does security level portfolio, and we let the overlap happen at Vanguard, but then or at any mutual fund company, and we do our stuff and have a third party asset management platform that does security level. That's what they want. And in the second side effect, and we can, again, I want to keep this on the short side. When they bring over themselves, they're bringing the team they already have. And when I reach out to the family lawyer or the family accountant that's been with this high net worth client forever, and I explain how we do it, They usually don't believe it. Sometimes they don't even call me back. So I eventually have to call them and say, listen, you're either at the table or on the menu, and we'd like you at the table. But the client's hired us to kind of, coordinate with you. And if you're not responding, I need to find someone that will. That always gets a phone call back. Don't lead with that because it might piss them off. But long story short, these people, those CPAs and those accountants, become really good referral sources the minute they realize that you don't do asset management first. Meaning they don't have to worry about the black swan referral issue. Someone bringing you a client and then, Brexit happens. That looks bad on the person that referred you, even though you did nothing wrong and they would have lost money where they were anyway. That conversation comes up. Hey, Fred lost me money because, I got to him and Brexit happened. By saying to these centers of influences that we don't handle money the first 6 months, we only do advice. My own lawyer, the guy that's in charge of everything, if I get by bus, never got a referral. Started doing this, explaining what we're doing, just to let them know. We got 3 referrals from them, multi-million-dollar families, and I had to call him up and say, yo, Jim, what's the difference? And I knew the answer, but I wanted to hear from him so I can honestly tell you this is how real life is kind of, absorbing this modality change of how we work with clients. And he basically said, I don't have to worry about baggage of referring you, because if you're with them for 6 months and then something happens, that's not on him anymore. And if we're doing alternative strategies, they typically don't go bump in the night, at least not in the first 6 months. So I wanted to keep this short. I want to thank you for the questions. I will send you white papers. I am open to answer any questions. Hopefully this was something of a start of a community, and I hope to see you at the next one. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care.